You hate to admit it, but deep down, you don't want to be good. You want to be envied. That's why you post. That's why you consume. That's why you smile while lying and applaud those who despise you. The idea of being a good person is just a facade. What you really want is to win, to be seen, to be desired, to be feared, to be visible, and if possible, without effort. You don't wake up every day seeking peace. You wake up seeking an advantage. You want more followers, a better body than hers, a higher salary than his, a lifestyle that screams, "I've made it," even if inside you are broken, anxious, and empty. You kill yourself working at a job you hate to buy things you don't need to impress people you don't even like. You accept shallow relationships just to not look lonely. You consume pornography to feel powerful. You spend money you don't have to pretend to live a life you don't actually live. And you still call this freedom. The truth is simple and dirty. You don't serve God. You serve greed, envy, lust, wrath, pride every day. But you learn to call it success, authenticity, self-love. There is no neutrality here. You're already on your knees. The only question is, to which of the 7 masters are you praying today? Throughout this video, we will expose with data, philosophy, and real-life examples how the 7 deadly sins weren't extinguished. They were promoted. They are no longer moral flaws. They are market rules. And if you think you're above it all, get ready to question every choice you thought was yours. If the world ends today, the least will die. The most will escape in rockets. Greed is no longer a vice. It's public policy, a career plan, an ad slogan. Jeff Bezos built a spaceship. Billionaires buy bunkers in the mountains of New Zealand, while billions of humans kill each other over cents or starve to death because they don't generate profit. But the cruelest part? No one is ashamed of wanting everything anymore. You were taught to find accumulation beautiful. A failure is someone who doesn't consume, who settles for little. The new ethic is no longer Christian. It's corporate. There's no longer sin in abundance. The new sin is being irrelevant. And here's the most disturbing detail. The more you have, the less you need, but the more you want. This isn't a flaw. It's by design. Zygmunt Bauman said, "We are trained to desire, but never to desire things that last. Because what lasts doesn't generate profit. You buy a new phone, it breaks in 2 years, you buy another. But the cycle isn't just material. You change clothes, cars, jobs, partners, cities. In a desperate attempt to fill the hole greed has dug inside you. The system says the world gets better with progress. But progress for whom? When 26 people have more money than half of the world's population, that's not growth. It's cannibalism. Marx wrote in Capital that capital must always expand endlessly, and that profit has no morality, only logic. Accumulate, accumulate. This is Moses and the prophets of production. He already said it. The capitalist, even if personally ethical, is forced to be greedy, or he dies in the market. It's not just about money. It's about what greed destroys along the way. People get plastic surgery to land jobs. Employees are fired by algorithms. Companies pollute, sicken, destroy, and get applause for innovating. Greed became competence. It has an MBA, a suit, a CEO speech on LinkedIn, but it's still the same demon, now with a fancy badge. Want real examples? The 2008 collapse. Billions of lives ruined, families on the streets, and the banks were saved. The pharmaceutical industry withholding cures in the name of patents. Mining companies displacing entire communities in exchange for mineral exports. Children in poor countries sewing the clothes you find stylish in shopping malls. These aren't exceptions, they're strategies. Greed isn't about wanting a lot, it's about never having enough. And modern society is built precisely on that infinite, uncontrollable, institutionalized hunger. You think you're progressing, but you're just being fed to a monster that devours everything and spits out emptiness. You think you're outraged by injustice, but in reality, you're addicted to feeling right. What you call a political stance is often just accumulated rage. You don't want to talk. You want to win. You don't want to understand. You want to destroy. And it's not your fault. Today, being angry is rewarded. Wrath became a product. Likes, retweets, shares. They come faster when you attack, insult, expose. Platforms were programmed to amplify conflict. The algorithm is a hate dealer. The more outraged you are, the longer you stay. And the longer you stay, the more you consume. Byung-Chul Han wrote in The Burnout Society that today's violence isn't explosive, it's implosive. We live in an era where there's no space for silence, so the scream became identity. Those who speak softly disappear. Those who speak with hate get the spotlight. Wrath gained moral status. Being aggressive is now being authentic. Exploding is a sign of courage. Canceling has become a tool for social justice. But here's the part no one wants to face. Modern wrath doesn't want to change the world. It wants an audience. Look around. Protests that end in digital lynching. Debates that seek not resolution, but blood. Online comments that sound more like civil war than conversation. People destroyed over old mistakes because someone must pay. Wrath is blind but not deaf. It hears applause, and that's enough. Neuroscience explains this coldly. Anger releases adrenaline, dopamine, cortisol. That is, feeling indignant gives pleasure. A real chemical, addictive pleasure. You scream for justice, but your brain just wants another dose. Hobbes saw man as a rational beast domesticated by fear. But today, fear doesn't control us. It shapes us. You're afraid of seeming passive, complicit, weak, so you choose hatred as armor. Religions once used hell to control people. Today, we use wrath as a collective punishment system. Post something wrong, think differently, hesitate for 1 second, and you become a target. Not out of love for truth, but out of love for lynching. Do you see the absurdity? People dying of anxiety, trying to be perfect all the time. People afraid to speak. Real people crushed by armies of vigilantes who deep down just want the pleasure of crushing someone. Wrath became morality, and morality became spectacle. In this theater of horrors, hate is the star. Today, you no longer need to love someone to have sex, but you do need performance, even to hug. You've been trained to desire not someone, but an edited version of another. Standardized bodies, calculated voices, rehearsed speeches. Spontaneity has died, suffocated by the algorithm. You think you seek pleasure, but what you really want is aesthetic validation with a happy ending. Lust was once a whispered sin. Today it screams, not from alleyways, but from feeds. We live in an era where the body is worth more than the person who carries it. Who you are matters less than how you present yourself. And if you don't have a sellable body or an Instagrammable desire, you're silenced by disdain. Foucault, when speaking of biopower, warned that modern control is not through sexual silence, but through its exposure. The more exposed, the more watched. The more watched, the more molded. Sex stopped being intimate and became a social interface. Lust is no longer desire. It's a subscription product. You can buy a nude, an exclusive video, an affectionate experience on a monthly plan. OnlyFans, Pornhub, Instagram, they aren't just platforms. They are marketplaces of outsourced desire, where you buy momentary relief that generates emotional debt. And the cruelest part? Even with all this access, we're lonelier than ever. Never has there been so much sex, and never has it felt so empty after. A study by the University of San Diego shows that despite unlimited access to sexual stimuli, Gen Z has less sex than the previous generations. Not out of chastity, but exhaustion. Desire became a task, something to perform. Showing pleasure became personal marketing. Zygmunt Bauman hits the nerve again. In liquid modernity, relationships are disposable, but the fear of loneliness is permanent. You swipe profiles like changing clothes. You don't connect with souls, but with what gives the most dopamine in 15 seconds. Lust is no longer about passion. It's about filling a hole that even sex can't reach. And those who don't deliver pleasure lose value. Affection became a market. Touch became currency. The body became an ad. We are surrounded by bodies, but starving for presence. It's never been easier to have sex, and never harder to be truly touched. You don't just want to win. You want the other to lose and to see you winning. Envy today is elegant. It wears designer clothes, talks about self-esteem, posts photos with filters. It doesn't say, "I want what you have." It says, "I want you to see me having more than you." That's what fuels the engine of social media. Constant comparison, perpetual dissatisfaction, infinite desire. You don't even need to want something genuinely. Just seeing someone else have it is enough to make you suffer for not having it. René Girard, when speaking about mimetic desire, already understood this. Desire is not spontaneous. We desire what others desire, and that's where the infernal cycle begins. No one knows what they truly want, but everyone wants what they see. And the more others seem to have, the more you feel you lack. Envy no longer hides. It's been promoted. It is now the fuel behind aesthetics, careers, spirituality, even identity itself. You don't buy sneakers. You buy the look of admiration they provoke. You don't take a course to grow. You take it to post the certificate. You don't go to the gym for your health. You go to get revenge with your body. Instagram was never made to connect people. It was made to rank them. The more attention you get, the more you're worth. The happier you appear, the more you win. And if you don't present yourself as a winner, you're invisible. Schopenhauer said, "The happiness of fools lies in the misfortune of their fellows." It's cruel, but it's true. Other people's happiness hurts you, not because you're a bad person, but because you were trained to compete all the time. And the most tragic part? You're not even envious of people's real lives. You're envious of their edited versions. You suffer over something that doesn't even exist. But that seems more real than your own life. Studies from the American Psychological Association show that intense use of social media is directly linked to depression, anxiety, and distorted self-esteem. And at the root of it all is the same cause: constant comparison. Envy has become technology. It's the code behind the feed, the metric behind the algorithms, the products sold by influencers. You're made to feel small, incomplete, out of the game, so you keep consuming. The market humiliates you to sell you a way out, but never actually gives it to you, because that exit must always remain unreachable. Today's envy no longer lives in the heart. It lives in your wallet, your feed, your comments. It disguises itself as motivation, but it's punishment. You thought you were ambitious, but maybe you're just living in the reflection of other people's lives. You're not tired. You're numb. Your mind doesn't think anymore. It reacts. Your body doesn't rest. It shuts down. Your soul doesn't seek. It consumes. Gluttony, sloth, and pride, these are the perfect drugs. Silent, socially accepted, and incredibly profitable. They don't kill you instantly. They make you lose interest in life while you're still breathing. Let's begin with gluttony. It's not just the excess of food, it's the excess of everything: information, dopamine, distraction, noise. You can't handle silence anymore. You eat while watching videos, work while listening to podcasts, reply to messages while you're on the toilet. You want everything all the time, but digest nothing. The Korean philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls this the obesity of information and says, in excess, attention disappears. Digital gluttony destroys our ability to focus. You're not inattentive, you're saturated. Modern sloth is not about doing nothing. It's about not being able to endure boredom. You trade complexity for ease. You don't read books. You watch summaries. You don't go deep. You consume hot takes. Sloth eats away at you from the inside. First it takes your curiosity, then your courage, and finally your sense of purpose. Pascal wrote with brutality, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. But silence today is unbearable because in silence you realize how empty you are. And at the top of this collapse comes pride. Pride is confidence without substance, the self-assurance of someone who hasn't yet fallen. It's the worship of one's own image, even when there's nothing behind it. We live in a world where humility is seen as weakness. You have to sell yourself all the time, even if you're drowning in crisis. Nietzsche warned, modern man believes he is God, and that's why he carries the burden of being perfect. Pride has become self-help. Be your own master. Be your priority. Be your best version. But no one tells you that this is exhausting, that trying to be excellent all the time is the most refined form of self-violence. The culture of excess, comfort, and self-image isn't freeing you. It's making you sick. You are overfed, overstimulated, full of yourself, and still feel like a fraud. Because this three-legged structure exists for one purpose only, to keep you distracted from the pain of existing. And so the last three sins complete the cycle. Gluttony anesthetizes, sloth paralyzes, pride deceives. And the result is a world full of exhausted people who don't know why. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you also feels, even silently, that something is wrong with the world, and maybe not just wrong, but sick. Maybe you too have felt that you're living inside a system that manipulates your desires, drains your energy, and sells you versions of happiness that never come true. Maybe you've already asked yourself, does it really have to be this way? This channel exists for that. For us to think about what no one wants to think about. For us to say what many feel, but few have the courage to say. And if you watch this until the end, you've already helped a lot, truly. Sharing this video, leaving a comment, sending it to someone, all of that sustains this project more than you can imagine. But if you want to go further to strengthen this work even more, you can become a member of the channel. Beyond directly helping produce deeper, more researched and braver content, you'll also get early access, exclusive content, and become part of a group that doesn't just watch from afar, but builds together. Another way to support is by using the Super Thanks feature below. It's a way of saying, this content moved me, and I want more people to find it. But honestly, just by being here, listening, reflecting, resisting the noise, you're already part of it. Thank you for that. See you in the next one.